What's going on, my people? What's going on? I'll play a little something here. Going on. Okay, we're good. I'm just gonna play a little something. Did the vocals to this? I have to check my connection, make sure everything is good here. Okay. All right. Here we go. And here we go. Check it out. My connection's not good. Hold on. My connection unstable. A little low. Welcome to the people that here. Ask conversations if anybody wants to
seguir la bomba, para gozar, es porque se disfruta, es porque se marca piquete.
This is just a test run on the vocal. I'm going to little things that are off. Online.
Nunca olvidé la cultura de mis padres en Puerto Rico. Puede sacar el jibarito su pueblo, nunca el pueblo es jibarito. Mamá, tengo frío, este país es mío. En la área se oye el grito, hasta dónde estamos cogidos. Quiero que no me llamen papi, a mí me llaman tío. Señores marrones bros, a frente a una bodega, mi gente espera una oportunidad que nunca llega. En la área se oye el grito, hasta dónde estamos cogidos. Prefiero estar en la playa, dentro de una hamaca con butaca y una botella de pitorro, cantando canciones de libertad. Sigue la bomba, marcando piquete, en Borinquen se disfruta. Esta bomba está marcando
You guys not man. You want on here? Okay.
Vamos a seguir la bomba. dando piquete.
Piquete. That's a dance.
Brínquense
That's
y
when the drum
fruta.
machine is dancing.
Esta bomba está
See that in all
tocando.
throughout the world. There we go. Okay. Okay. Technology. I don't have anybody to help me here, but that's fine. All in blessings to everyone. I just decided to come on. Actually, I'm just testing everything. I'm planning on I plan on doing some and getting some information out, that I've been holding within myself. I was privy to sit with certain, masters and mentors. And sometimes those masters and mentors give keys or give them part of themselves to students that they feel, protege that they feel are worthy, and it's locked in. It's important sometimes to share that, There are groups that don't like to share outside of the organization. I understand that, and I respect that. But again, the organization that is most relevant and prominent in this existence is the organization of the planet, all people. So sometimes, why is it important to know certain things? Well, why is it important to know the actual route to get to an emergency room or to get to your destination? Why is that important? Why not just get in a car and just drive and believe that you're going to get there? Don't really know, right? Why it's important. So same thing with certain sacred knowledge and certain, knowledge and wisdom is in, but now using that same example with getting to the hospital and having knowledge how to get there, right? Knowing, if you share that knowledge to maybe someone might need it one day, you don't know. It's good. Hey, here it is. You might need it one day. You might need the instructions to get to that emergency room, the actual route, the route. You might need it. Why me hold that? Why say, let me hold it? I'm not going to tell you how to get there. And then the person really needs it, has an emergency and needs it. You know what I'm saying? So sacred is really not secret, right? Well, I'm ready to look up that word, but it's just not, because sacred just means that it's divine. It's of a superpower. It's a higher frequency, right? A certain frequency. That's what that is. Secret means you withheld things. A secret. A lot of times you can find out secrets. Like, has anybody ever heard about Victoria's Secret? What's Victoria's Secret? I was told that by it's crazy. Victoria's Secret is that Victoria's actually Victor. Oh man, I was like, oh no. But yeah, that's just an example that actually you can find out many things. And like I said, it's important to know. It's important to know, certain things. And it's important also when you see someone, you feel that they're ready. Sometimes you can feel it, and you say, here, let me share this with you. With the technology today, you can actually share it with many people, and you don't even see them and share it. And you never know, one day, they might, in their lifetime, they might need certain information. That's why it's important also to have this, they call information affirmation, that is going to create an understanding. It's going to add to the understanding of it and the wisdom, the use of it. You see, because there's certain information that you may read or stuff like that, but you don't have no use for it unless if you're going to be aspiring to be a teacher of some sort at a university, or hold some classes, make some revenue from those classes in certain venues. Then you might need to stock up on certain things, knowledge. But as far as helping someone, you really have to choose the type of information, the knowledge. You have to choose some of the knowledge. Or you can stock up the knowledge, right? But sometimes you have to know. It's like you're a chemist or a doctor or something, or a lawyer. You have a case. You have to know what in that knowledge database, where to look, do the research, and where to look, what book, what case, what procedures or techniques that's in that book that it can remind you and add to your practice. All that applies to what we do now. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I'm going to share some things that was shared to me privately. Sometimes masters, mentor can put certain keys, tones, because letters, believe it or not, some letters represent certain tones and sounds and light. And if you know those keys, just that one letter can open up that consciousness, because it's carrier of consciousness. That sound of that letter, that visual of that letter, because it's a frequency, right? So it's going to have an effect on your reception of frequencies. You receive and you inhale and you exhale frequency. So I'm saying it about the language throughout culture. Many language, the tongue, came about culture. And I said this before, that culture is a compound word, right? And it's cultivating, the first couple of letters of cultivating and the last couple of letters of nature. When you cultivate nature, the conditions. So culture is predicated on a people, right, engaging in their environment, in their conditions. And as they go on, they set a drive, they set a rituals, a pattern based on that environment and conditions they're on. So they develop a culture. Segueing into this, that's cultivated. The culture of hip hop. We're having a lot of discussions, and I'm going to reveal some things here about hip hop, believe it or not. Am I a pioneer? I won't call myself a pioneer. I because of my age and the environment, I can say that, yes, I was in that, because that was our environment. That was our culture. Now, I'm going to go so deep into this, you realize something, because of experience, okay? But let's take it back a little bit. If you look at, I don't know how to say this, but okay, let's look at the conditions. You're in the Bronx, New York. You're 11 years old, 12, 13, let's say 1970, in the early 70s. You know what was the conditions? First of all, in the Bronx, We know that because of the migrant of many Hispanics and blacks moving out of Harlem and coming from the South, Virginia, stuff like that, that migration, a lot of other nations started to vacate, right? And when they vacated, these were landlords. Because I can go deeper into this, the land, the agriculture, but we're going to save that. Let's talk about just this condition. So, you're coming from the South, you got trees, fruits, you got a lifestyle in the South. A mixture between Native American and African, right? In the South. And Moorish, believe it or not, people coming from Spain. And in the South, also, you have Caribbean people, Cubans, all over, right? Different type of lifestyle. When you go up to the Bronx, right? Now we have a city, a big city. The culture is different. Big city like New York City, Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a little different. It's a little mixed. Philadelphia, Newark, New Jersey. These cultures, these cities are congested, right? People stack on top of each other everywhere. It's very economical. People, you have train systems, jobs, you have these big sky rises and everything. You got a big city. Right? So a lot of people move there for these opportunities. But as they move into the opportunity and they move into these neighborhoods, other people start vacating, okay, because they feel like we don't vibe with them. We don't know them, Call it racism, or what you want to call it, or separatism. But it exists, also because of status, economy, echo. Remember, echo is habitat. It's the environment. That's an echo. When you manage an echo environment, that's economics. And so in the Bronx, many of our parents went to work in the city, garment district, candy, Tootsie Roll factory, many companies in Manhattan used to make these products. Now they had children, right? In that household, remember your parents came from the South, so they listened to a certain type of music, ate a certain type of food. They came from the Caribbean, came from Puerto Rico, you had a certain type of food, you had a certain type of language, right? So now you have lots of the youth. They're not going into the beach or the mountain. They're not, they're not in nature like that. They say, right? They're in a different type of natural environment, a concrete environment, another nature. And so you got a bunch of these youth around, right? They're seeing, one, buildings not being taken care of. There's a lot of landlord vacated, so there was a lot of squatters. Then came slumlords, wasn't taken care of very well. So there was an operation that took place. When that was the burning of certain buildings. They used to hire people to burn these buildings for the insurance so they can get out and go to the suburbs and go wherever they want. That was a practice, right? That they did. They hire a lot of the gangs and used to do that. People start fires. Now you're in this. You could walk down the neighborhood. You walk out the street. You see people all over the street. Dominican, Cubans, Greek, Irish, Italian. You see all these out there, right? Some of them are moving away, right? Now, all the children, they get together and they start playing games. Stickball, slugs. Anybody know that game, slugs? Right? It's a Spalding ball and you hit it on the ground first, then you hit it on the wall on the side of a building. Or you also had what they call the edge of the street curve baseball, right? Where you hit it on the curve, right? And you catch it. That's your bat. Instead of a bat, you hit it on the curve, Spalding. The other team catches it, and you run the bases. You have stickball, and that's using a broomstick. Till later on, they started to, develop into an actual sport. But yeah, it was with broomsticks. That's stickball. Slugs. You had the schoolyard. A lot of guys went to the schoolyard, right? We formed softball teams in the schoolyard, in the concrete. We would play football, full contact. You had two-hand touch, right? And then some guys got as far as going full contact because they wanted to hurt somebody in the concrete, right? So now you're all in this. That's your normal life in the street, and you're talking about You're now getting to know other music coaches of other music. African Americans started to learn about the South Side stuff. I mean, that happened for a very long time. But I'm talking about in the 1970s, right? And certain lingo, and I started to learn about that. Of course, there was a lot of dozens, like you call it, dirty dozens. A lot of naming. So that was a game we used to play. We you make fun of people's looks or family, whatever. But now, this environment, exchange of this going on, right? Then for entertainment, guess what happened? In the 70s, there was a lot of black exploitation movie, but before the black exploitation, what they call black movies, like Shaft and what's that guy? Angria, Shaft, Sexy Foxy Mama. All these movies started to come out, right? Guess what also came out during that time? Kung Fu flicks. You can go, we went like every weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday, right? We went to a theater, the Deluxe Theater. It was on 160, what high school, Grand Concourse. I would say 167, around there, right? It was a deluxe theater. In that theater, they purposely played a lot of Kung Fu movies coming from China. The 5 Fingers of Death. And of course, Bruce Lee came, bro. Forget it. When Bruce Lee's movie came in, that place was packed. But they showed a lot of Kung Fu movies, right? And here you are, young kid, coming in the street. You're seeing this. You want to do that. You know what they did in those Kung Fu movies? I should have brought some clips. I'm going to collect some clips and show you. They were doing the cartwheel. They were fighting, right? And doing these gymnastics move. Yeah. Because the martial arts it's like a dance. But you get so good at it, you could defend it. It's dancing. It's battling. See? This is what we were looking at. So what do you think we did? Oh, did you see him spin on his head? Oh, man, that's nice, bro. Man, wow. So we started to make nunchucks out of brooms and cut them up, and you put a screw and a chain. Everybody was a nunchucks master back then. Friend of mine was a master at the bow. He could fight with that long stick. Some guys really, really excel in this type of weaponry, right? Also, the techniques of spinning on your head, the cartwheel, right? Spinning on your head. Now, mind you, you see this going on, and you are doing it, but being that you in the street, concrete, so you put linoleum. We're using a piece of copy. You put it there, and you start, check out this move. This is all we did. There was no music yet. It's just learning this, right? Mastering these moves without music. I've seen it. I did it. This is what we did. I used to like the nunchucks. But I wasn't going to get it. It was a different thing. But that's what we did. Then you had a lot of gangs, violence and stuff, right? Stick-ups and stuff like that. But then you also have certain individuals, and I'm going to explain how reincarnation works and how that happens. And so you have certain individuals in the hood, right? Reincarnated souls that brings about a peace, right? They see a problem. They say, man, and they're leaders. They say, instead of us killing ourselves, why don't we just battle ourselves, see who's better? Battle ourselves, see who can do this and do that. Because that you saw a couple of decades ago, because they'll play on TV, West Side Story. West Side Story was about Italians and Puerto Rican. Check out that movie. They battling how? With dance. Remember? Check out the movie. And this movie was filmed in what, in the 60s, 50s, 60s, early 60s? Huh? Look what they're doing. Battling. Even with a knife. That's one scene. But they also battling in they dance off. In the movie West Side Story, y'all. We saw this. So it's like, and I'm going to reveal to you a person in the Bronx that had this character, a leader, and was teaching friends, people in the group, in the block, how to do these moves. He taught me how to spin on my head. And that's a gymnastic move. That's something that you in the Kung Fu movie, but it's a specific move you do in order to spin on your head. It's a gymnastic move. Why? It's a gymnastic move because later on, this brother was on a gymnastic team in Clinton High School. Okay? He became about 14 years old. He was aspiring. He loved the bow. Fighting with stick, great martial arts, right? He was a magician, so he knew sleight of hand. He was a DJ, one of the first one to be spinning, took it to Brooklyn, spinning, and he used to do magic tricks while on the turntables, okay? Because he used to like to perform for children, you know? A very, very incarnated, a soul like that. In the Bronx, see, I was more like singing, congas, learning, and creating. I was more like creating footage, stories. Yo, we can, because I saw a lot of Bruce Lee story, and it was like, wait, if I can write a story. So I used to write it out, the story, and have my cousin, and we used to actually do a play. That's how we grew up in the street. We entertaining ourselves. Now, this individual I'm talking about, this person, reincarnated soul, in the Bronx, saw this. A baby ghetto like me, right? So he started to teach. He said, yo, battle, because in the Bronx, everybody was exposed to this. And let's started to battle using these gymnastic moves. And then you also study capoeira, and you study different martial arts, right? Jiu-jitsu, you study kung fu, you study the monkey, you study all the stuff just to enhance your skill. People, to enhance your skill. And then I'm gonna talk about Mr. Freeze, because I met him. When he come, that day, because he did pantomiming. That was a whole different breaking. That was like a showcasing type of thing. But the battle, the 7 deadly sins. He was a leader of the 7 deadly sins. Yeah, my brother was a leader of the 7 deadly sins. He taught little man, because like I said, his conception, his thing was like, let me bring this peace to the streets. Because people was killing. He lost his sister. I mean, there was murder. There was a lot of killing in the Bronx. Gangs fighting. He wanted to change that. So what did he start to do? When instead of everybody getting together in the schoolyard, and he's DJing and teaching his brothers how to do that, and they used to battle each other. It was having a battle, just like they did in West Side Story, but it's a different type of battle. People, now I'm living this. See, I wasn't too involved in battling and stuff like that, and you know, I was more of the, you know. So I was learning a lot of was doing that. And so, you know, if they knew I played conga, yo, play that. And brothers would stop rocking. Right? Now, the first time I seen rocking wasn't with my brother, and I'm gonna reveal his name. Actually, his name was Cool Sky. The first time I seen rocking was at a ferry going to the Bear Mountains, and they were dissing each other. Right? But that was, well, that was 73, 1974, about 74, because that was my senior year in junior high school. I went to private school. And that was our senior trip, was go to Bear Mountains, bro. I had a great time. And in that Bear Mountains, they had a DJ, right? And these guys, and I remember the song that they played too. Boom, 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 by our Creative Source. And they were dissing each other. But these guys had like a disco type of vibe to them. You know what I'm saying? And with the hat and dissing each other, right? That's a different style. That comes from the clubs. Rocking was in the clubs. And so, but it became part of the street culture. Because, you know, the streets in the club was like, you know, you did it in the streets and all that, but when you got old enough to go in the club, you're going to go in the club, you're going to do your stuff in the club. You know what I'm saying? That's how that goes. But anyway, because there were clubs, the Fever and all that, where you had battles and you had breakers going to these clubs to, you know, and battling. Now, I'm just talking about the B-boy, because the other part of hip hop, the graffiti, that I saw 72. I would say, well, I was in 4th grade. So that would be 72, 73. It's the first time I saw peace on the wall. Now, this brother Cool Sky, he's an artist. An extraordinary artist, bro. He taught a lot of brothers how to draw. You know, I think I learned from the bubble style and the box style. He showed me how to do the box. So it was a great, you know, right now, he's an artist. He's a graphic artist. That's his thing, you know. But at that age, and I'm gonna tell you why, a reincarnated soul in the Bronx, you have many of these, right? Because time don't exist. I'll explain that some other time. But so it was in that area where Morris Avenue, I think they came from Fox Street. I'm not sure where he came, or Vice. I don't know where his family came from, because he had the brothers. Wilski was a notorious gangster in the Bronx. If you don't know Wilski, you better know Wilski, because you're gonna get stuck up. And his brother Reggie, you know. And then I started rolling with him in 1980, 81. We were just close. But we got so close, but we experienced the same thing. Oh, you remember Five Fingers of Death? This is how he's explaining, and I'm saying, wow. I mean, it's true. But this is what we did. See, I learned to play conga by listening to, in those styles, by listening to Boogaloo. I think Ray Barreto, Pete Rodriguez, and that. And then I started getting into James Brown and Kool and the Gang and Marvin Gaye. So that became a whole different thing, you know, styles. I developed my own style using that. And then, of course, to traditional rumba, Colombia. Colombia was I started. And then again, salsa, you know, salsa, son, montuno, guaracha. You had Mazumbique with Eddie Palmieri. So you learn these rhythms and you play them in the streets, you know. And once in a while, you'll get somebody breaking. You know what I'm saying? You get together, ideas. Get together, right? Now, we weren't the only one Puerto Rican living this. You had African American also. So they express themselves differently in the streets. They had DJs, right? Throw the party because they had the black spades. We were ghetto brothers. They had the black spades and the javelin. We were the baby ghetto brothers, Savage Skulls. Totally different vibe, right? And it's important that I mention the Ghetto Brothers because that's also birth of that breaking hip hop, those records. And so, and this Cool Sky told me, he said, yeah, man, you know, all of that, I was baby Ghetto Brothers, me too. And yeah, the Ghetto Brothers, the jams and everything. And this is, I was a DJ and I was teaching these guys how to dance, you know, these moves that I learned from gymnastics and stuff like that. and watching these kung fu movies and wanted to bring that peace because you got a jam. And if you have Ghetto Brothers and another gang show up, then you know, there's going to be a fight, murder, whatever. You want to change it because he was a reincarnated soul. He was about, I don't know if he knew at that time, but I don't know, but changing things. So this is in that area, that Morris Avenue, by Kingsbridge up there, Kingsbridge by the Armory up there. You have to, I think it's 183rd, like that. Yeah, you know. So explain to me that this culture of hip hop, they call it hip hop later on, it's an ancient practice, because just like you have a reincarnated soul in that environment, right? Guess what? You had an incarnated soul in the environment, right? In Egypt. In Egypt. So you had Egypt and you had the Egypt of the West, the Egypt of the West here in America. Incarnated souls. Back then in ancient time, the incarnated soul that changed things for, again, remember, Egyptians had a hood. The ancient Egyptians, those civilizations had a hood. Even if we go to Puerto Rico, these are certain areas that are hood. People buy differently. You know what I'm saying? You get incarnated soul placed because that's part of nature. I don't know. I'm really, you know, think about it. You know, just like they do with the Tibet, they got the incarnated soul become the Dalai Lama, right? Same thing with us. We got incarnated soul within this hood that change, bring something or renew something. So that was happening in that environment. So and there was a time, right, that there was a being by the name of King Tut, which really wasn't his name. No, King Tut was an artist, sculptor, a great artist sculptor. Because when they found his crypt, right, when they found that, what did they find in there? Art pieces, colors, gems. He was a collector. Who's guy? A collector. He got stuff that'd be like, wow, collect stuff. Go open up a damn museum. He did the same thing. Collected. He was an artist, an extraordinary sculptor and artist. He was a child prodigy. Incarnated souls are like child prodigy. They are well advanced in something, right? And they come renewing it. So it happened. The battles that they had, I don't know, because when I used to work out a little bit with King Tubby, because he told me, what move you got? And so I was known for what they call the Arabian cart, the Arabian spin. And that's when you dip down, you put one leg under here, you dip down, and then you spin up. It's called the Arabian spin. That was my thing. That's my renewing. That's right? And then, right? That's a different move. Okay? These moves are not new. These moves come from, again, kind of a culture that comes even from an ancient culture. Because knowing the body, dance, and knowing the body, gymnastics, the art of warfare, weaponry, and war. You know what I'm saying? Martial art, all of that. Okay, so all of that was, okay, that's where this breaking comes in. They call it b-boy breaking because of the break records, because that's another conversation with the records. They're playing the breaks. And when you play the breaks, the drums or the percussion goes off. One of the first break grooves that I learned and I saw was by Scorpio. And then there was a section there, but that also was a section, okay, because that was Clarence Avion. That was his label. So I said, that section like that, where you have the bass and the conga, Dizzy Gillespie with Chano Poso. There's a section in that, and they use it. So there are sections in band, little sections, what they call the break off, like the break off. And it became breaks, mixed in with the systems of Jamaica and stuff like that. The African Americans were into that because remember, they also were in this environment. When we went to see those kung fu movies and all that, I have friends. We all were in this, and we get together on the block, and this is what we're doing. What are we doing? Okay? This was our lifestyle. This is the way us coming up. This is how we. Hey, what's up, Rafi? Louis? This is how we, and I'm talking 70, 69, 70, 71, 72. I'm 63. At that time, we was, again, cultivating our environment. It's different, okay? What else can I say about that? So you had the graffiti. One of the first things I saw was the writing, the expression of art. Then the rocking, and then the b-boy breaking came a little later on when I saw that, because as going through the on the block, and you had some guys that was just interested in freaking pulling a carpet on the floor and spinning. I did it, but I was more interested in Justi Barreto. Yeah, in 74, 73, 74, I was playing congas on Shakespeare Avenue. But the guys, there's some guys out there breakdancing, this and that. The first beer. That's one of the first songs I learned in Colombia. And that's by Justi Barreto, Un Verano en Nueva York. I tell you that story, how I was there. So this is, again, you see this, it's like growing. You see it manifesting in front of your eye, and then you see the person that's introducing it. I've seen other guys introduce certain things into the culture. Where do you get that from? Because remember, in order for you to create something, you got to take something that already exists. It's already out there, but you just form into your own. That's creation. The particles of creation, nature, everything exists because you got creation and you have existence. And subsistence is different, but you got existence. Out of existence, things that already exist eternally, you create because you take from here, there, and there, and there. And you see this, especially with reincarnated souls, bringing in something new. And you see that because it's expressing themselves. When you're younger, when I was younger, I was able to express myself more. I was free. I didn't have no like not much insecurities because you're free, you're expressing yourself. So like I tell you, I started to I do a lot of funk stuff with the rumba. That was my expression, and I'm revisiting that. So a lot of tracks that I'm doing is gonna have a funky, like funky PR, are gonna have a funky vibe to it. New York vibe, but it's still gonna have that cloudy, the Hispanic turnaround. You know what I'm saying? Or New York. I'm born and raised in New York. Travel back and forth to Puerto Rico. So this is what I'm talking about. You see, Cool Sky. He got mad. He didn't get mad, but he was a little disappointed because a lot of people started to learn what he was teaching, but then they would leave, form their own thing. They would go and do their thing and not give him credit. In other words, they didn't take, come on, man. He was a little difficult sometimes, but it's like all this stuff. These guys started traveling around the world, breakdancing, and they're not real. And I know how he feels too, because there's a lot of things that I've been taught and did. For the first time, people pick it up, and then all of a sudden you don't hear from them no more. They don't say, "Hey, man," no, they don't do that no more. So I definitely understand where he's coming from, but sometimes now is the time you make yourself available. But some people say, they can have it. I just keep doing my thing here. You talk to him about Cusco, and I don't want to put business out here like that, but he's like, they can have hip hop. People want to claim hip hop. There's people there want to claim everything, and they even won the person, let them have it. Because I'm gonna tell you something, it took a turn. What you call rap hip hop today is not the hip hop from back then. Because hip hop was created again to bring peace, battle, peace, right? Up at you battling. Then it became violent. It became, certain elements. And hip hop back then, in the street with the DJ, you always heard conga. You always heard that Latin element in there. Tito Puente album, you always heard that. Now, very rarely, they don't acknowledge it. And I don't know, because then there was a time, and in Brooklyn, because Cool Sky was the first one to actually go into Brooklyn and start scratching on those parties used to have in Brooklyn. One of the first he taught, one of the first ones in Brooklyn, because Brooklyn, you see, everything in the Bronx. Then when people travel through the borough, they start to bring it in. When the family moves, they start bringing it to the borough they move. So people moving from the Bronx to Brooklyn, or coming from Brooklyn to there was an exchange. You get the train system, and so Brooklyn was catching on. They were catching on. Brooklyn really caught on more in the 80s, in the mid 80s. You have Brooklyn catching on. Then you had groups like Everybody Rakim. You had groups like you had this guy Biggie. You had Nas. Nas was in Queensboro, but they started, and they could tell you with Starsky and all the first one. They could tell you, because they actually recorded songs that had Latin percussionists in it. They could tell you, but then for a minute there, things just took another twist. Can have it. Because that's supremacy. But that's another conversation. We talk about supremacy. You have white supremacy, Puerto Rican supremacy. You have this supremacy, sense of supremacy, pride. It's good to have pride, but the correct racism is not trotting on another nation. That's the correct way. You be proud, but you don't trot on another, and you give them their due respect. That's the way it is. When you disrespect another nationality, another what they call race, but it's not really a race, so a human race, but it's like a nationality, right? When you start downtrodden, even Caucasian, you start downtrodden Chinese, you start black. That's what they call wrong racism or wrong separatism. You got it wrong and right thing. It's part of duality. That's duality. That's what I say. I try not to. I understand it. I know it exists. You know what I'm saying? But I try not to vibe there. I only try to vibe. You're going to get to know positive from negative, which is, you need a light bulb is positive and negative. You need it, but it's to tilt it more towards a positive if that's where you want to position yourself a certain way. But if you want to negate something, then you're going to go more towards negative because you want to negate it. See the word? Negative, negate, positive, position. It's like I said before, my people, it's all in the definitions and explanation. If you're not invested in definitions and researching words and definitions, right, then you're going to be bamboozled. Yeah, oh yeah. You're going to get a lot of opinions and a lot of their opinions and theory and concepts all mixed up, and it becomes a battlefield for ego, which ego energy on the go is just it's just go. No navigation. Ego is energy that don't have no types of navigation. It's straight go like that. They don't know how to navigate and include you. They don't know how to expand that fifth dimension. It's the expanding. They're contrasted, but they don't understand the expanding and knowing how to balance. And everything, Earth is pulsating. Your body is pulsating. Your electrical body is pulsating because that's fifth dimensional. Expand, contract. That's what it is. Dimensions of measurement. That could be measured. Amplify. Amplification could be measured. Right? Contraction, that could be measured. Because dimensions are measurable. There's just certain dimensions that don't have any any concept. People have there are secrets to that, but there's no are not invested in the concept of how to measure those particular dimensions. Okay, but anyway, that's hip hop for you, and it's starting now to come full circle. In the Bronx, in that area, they could just trace it. It's that area, and it's the West Bronx. The West Bronx, not the South, the North, the East. It was in the West. And there is a prophecy about that. From the East to the West. And the West is looking at the East as it's coming full circle. The West. There is a science behind that. You had Egypt in the East. Yeah, Egypt in the West. Well, honey, you know, the East and West. Moses, all the prophets, all that traveled from the East. They were in the East, they traveled to the West. Because the sun, right, rises in the East and sets in the West. Right? They were looking for the full, the conclusion of things. West. But that's another conversation. We can have it, we can expand that even more. But yeah, the individual, yeah. We know who was dropping those keys. And it's like this. It's never like you're the first one, because you need others to validate, to engage in it. So you could be, oh, bring this idea, which you're getting it from all different ideas. You could bring this in here instead of, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, it happens so quick. It's like you take a bunch of rubber band, right? It's so quick. When you pop, boom, introduce something, it catches on. And it's called match frequencies. Is that some incarnated souls is the first spark. The first spark that anybody goes, oh, that's from my boy Rafi. You know what I'm saying? That's how that works. And I see that in Brooklyn too, with, again, incarnated soul, but that's another conversation. It's a divine incarnated soul. Okay. And when you say, what are incarnated soul or reincarnated souls? Definitions, explanations. One, you have the word return, redo, again. In, within, carne, incarnated in the flesh. What's re? Electromagnetic frequency coming from electromagnetic forces, source, incarnating into a carne, meat, body. We are all reincarnated souls. All on this planet are reincarnated souls. But like I said, there are some electromagnetic forces, soul embodiment that has a clear, that's a prodigy, is different because they have a more clear consciousness, they're more aware, right? And more in tune with, again, there's no time. Because in this bubble of existence, time is only a measurement, right? Time measures. That's the marriage between particle and space. It's time, aging, right? But within this bubble, there is no, the time is eternal. Because vacuum space is eternal. Particle matter is eternal. Because it relates to space. And time, the marriage, is eternal. It's, again, Morbius scripts, or it doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an ending, because it's constantly pulsating, right? Then when you switch it, and you have what's in is out, what's out is in, the Morbius strip. And that's the figure 8 that you see magicians or where. That's the sign in Tarot, magicians. It's knowing the in becomes the out. What you in manifested out. What's out there is going to come in. guard your door, guard yourself. Okay, that's the guardians. Guard yourself. So, you know, and the reason why, well, I like conversations like this, and like I said, this is all being documented. I'm recording it, and I'm ready to share because, like I said, you have reincarnated souls, and when you're fortunate enough to sit, like I sat down with Cool Sky, reincarnated soul like Cool Sky, and he sat down with me because I'm a reincarnated. We're all reincarnated soul. When you sit down, you get to. I'm curious, just like many of us are curious to know, and some of us have an ability, right? That we need to be respectful of it. We need to listen to it, and it's just a matter of perspective. But if you have a clear consciousness and a way of perceiving things that can help somebody, like I tell you, and I share here how my perception, how I perceive things, right? Perceive it, to see it, pre-see it, is to go into the definitions or the explanations of some the thing, the environment, or the definition if it's dealing with tones of words and language and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That's the key. That's my perspective. There are people that just like to believe. That's it. Yeah, I have belief. And when I do have that belief, I try to match it up with my knowledge, my knowing. Okay? But I'm more lean towards that. I need to know. There are people out there that they believe they can play. They believe. I can do that. But they didn't practice the actual. How to. And the different sound. Right? They didn't practice. And that's practice. It's your wisdom, knowing. Wisdom. See? So they just, I can do that. Because they see it, but they don't perceive it because they don't have perception, because they didn't pre-see it and learn it. See, you can play words. I can play words too. Yeah? So that's what, how long I've been here? About an hour, and I'm gonna shut it down. But yes, this, I'm going to do a class, a seminar, not a class. I don't like to teach, but a seminar sharing. And what I'm going to share with you is it's a sort of like I'm healing. It's a release. It's sacred, but at the same time, it's sacred to the planet. So I'm starting to go back and say, okay, now it might sound a little repetitious and I'm re-elevating a lot of things, but I'm putting it in a package form because, you know, it's who I am. So sometimes I express myself, and yeah, it's gonna come out. You know what I'm saying? But what I have revealed are skills. Now you're gonna apply that skills to these, what they call etheric teachings. Just like you have a physical formation of an institution, right? A school. You also have an etheric, or souls, electromagnetic. There's an etheric institution, electromagnetic institution, where your soul visits and taught. That's the key. That when, again, talking about Bible, because I don't like to do that a lot, but that's one of the keys when you say, "And my father's many mansions," and talk about all those schools of thought that came from primordial beings manifesting, reincarnating, and forming those schools on earth. Yeah. And when you realize one thing, that, wow, I had a premonition. I had a dream. I was in class. Yeah. Because you were. It's just that, as, again, time the measurements, and it goes on, it goes, Maurice, it goes in and out. It just keeps internally, it starts manifesting. It starts creating in itself and stuff like that. That's why they say there's nothing new under the sun, because they don't understand the word new. That's a cliche. It's NU, new, and the symbol for that is the sun. It's the sun when it's over what they call the vehicle. And that's why I look sometimes you could see when you see that crescent of the moon, right? Because the sun's position, but then you see a star behind that. Right? You ever see that? Alignment? Like that star, the moon in a crescent, because the sun is in a certain position where it's hitting the earth, causing that, right? It's because remember, positioning itself in vacuum creates a frequency. And we learn that in AutoCAD or MicroStation in engineering. You position certain dots, and then you can do a graph. And that's a frequency. Mathematics is a frequency. Oh, man, I'll keep going on and on. But anyway, I'm going to rest there, right? Let's rest a little bit. I know it's a lot, but in there's keys, skills. In there's keys. You know, get to know each other. And like I said, it's important to impart certain things on people because, like I said, you want to know the route of how to get to the hospital. You're going to look it up. Today we got GPS. Check it out. You have an inner GPS that could take you, but you got to know. You have to know how to do it. You have to know where to go. Can't just out of the blue. You're gonna, it takes longer and awesome, whatever. Back then we didn't have Wi-Fi, anything like that, but we found it because we knew what? Streets, train station. We knew how to get there. There's maps. We use maps. And then we knew it's a map. So a lot of information is on maps that you might need a certain knowledge for something. Because if you're a thinker or sometimes somebody say something to you, it could be a little confusing. It's because you don't know it, right? You can't know it, right? And you could become sway, bamboozled, because you don't know. And they got you in belief. Believe me, I'll take you here. And you learn that in masonry. But believe me, put your life in me. I'm the worshipful master. Wow, boo. And you manipulate that person. Sometimes that manipulation, that can teach you if you grow out of it. If you grow out of it, and then you become a master, right? And that's part of schooling. It's been put in every school, in Santeria, following Christianity, all that's been put in there because that's the foundation. But again, some of us graduate and we, you know what I'm saying? It's time to move. It's time now to move on, bro. It's time for you to set your institute and bring match frequency. People around you is gonna vibe like you. You know what I'm saying? So we can grow together, do something beautiful. You know, as we transition, because as we do something beautiful here, it's gonna spread out. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So anyway, there's so much we can go into the language, Saba, 7. Man, there's so much. But right now, you know, I'm just gonna leave it there, okay? All in blessings. And I'm definitely gonna you know, try to my besties to again, anybody can reach me, really when I do things like this, and some people that know me can reach me, man. I'm not a difficult person. Difficult. I don't go into a different cult. You get it? I'm not cultish. I understand what cults are, right? But that's being difficult. And you differ from what? Cults. Because everybody's always trying to promote their culture. Cultivating. Yeah? A cult, or the cults just mean to cultivate. The occupation of cultivating is what occult people do. Some people cultivate death environment. So that's that culture. Some people cultivate different things. Anyway, I keep going on and on and on because that's the power of communication. That's the power Okay, so with all that saying, man, all them best things, my email. Let me see if I can put on my email real quick for y'all. Why? Because hit me up. There you go. Email. Hit me up. You want to, because I'm going to record this seminar. I'm going to record it, just like I'm doing here. And this is the prerequisite. And then it's going to be unlisted, private. The only way you can see it if you put the link in. And please don't share it. And in order for you to get the link, do require a free offer. Because that's hotel. When you give something to somebody for any information, that's the way it was done in school. That's why the best schools, they pay. I went to private school, they pay. You know what I'm saying? Because when you put value to something, then you appreciate it more. And they do it in religion. And they do it everywhere in society. You appreciate it more. Okay? That's it, man. I'll keep going. Okay. Ciao. So another thing, sign up now. On this email, you can sign up for the seminar. I'll send you the link. Ciao. Goodwill offer.